In our last video, we looked at deploying a simple Go app using Google Cloud Run. This is the repository for that app, and the way this works is we build a Docker image with this Docker file and then upload it to a registry in Google Cloud and then deploy it in Google Cloud Run by selecting the image. Google Cloud Run takes care of building the container and deploying it into the infrastructure. Setting it up manually for the first time was no problem, but what do we do if we want to change something about the code? We would have to deploy a new version every time, which we can do manually by going to this menu and selecting the appropriate image. But we can do better than that, and it's not a lot of extra work. We want to set up continuous deployment, which means every time we push to the master branch of this repository, we want to push a new image to the Cloud Registry and automatically deploy a container of that image to Cloud Run. Probably the easiest way to get this going is to go to Setup Continuous Deployment and selecting a repository that is connected to Google Cloud. If your repository is not yet connected, just follow the instructions under Manage Connected Repositories. You can also host your code directly on Google Cloud. That way you do not have to connect it separately like you would with GitHub. These repositories work like any other Git repository, and if you want to keep your code on GitHub, you can set up the cloud repository as another origin. I've already done this for this app, so let's select that one and click on Next. Here we can select a regular expression that will apply to branch. In this case, it will only apply to master. And when we select Dockerfile, we can make sure that this Dockerfile will actually be used to build the image. So we save that. And now we wait a few seconds for the cloud build trigger to be set up. So let's give this a try. Here we have the source code, and what we expect to see is any change that we commit to this repository and push to master will result in a new version that is being deployed on Google Cloud Run. So let's make a simple change here. Save that and commit it. Now when we go back to the servers on Google Cloud Run, we can see that the image is being built and soon will be deployed. Now that the build has been successful, we should see the new version has already been updated. Now let us return to our example app and look at the build history and think about what exactly we have created here. Every time we push to the master branch, this new code will directly be deployed on the production environment. This is actually not a very safe setup, because we should check our code before we deploy to production. And one way we can do that is by requiring that tests in the code base pass before we deploy to production. This concept is called continuous integration, and we are going to set it up on GitHub now. On GitHub, we will use the GitHub Actions to set up our continuous integration pipeline. We can use this example workflow. It will download dependencies for our project, build it, and finally run the tests. The GitHub action is set up as a separate file in our project, and we will create a commit that will commit this file to our repository. To see this in action, let's look at a pull request that I opened. And when we click on Show All Checks, we see our pipeline there and can explore the individual steps and see that the build is passing.